On August 6th of 1945, an American B-1 bomber, the Enola Gay, took off from Tinian Island with a 12-member crew. It was carrying the most destructive weapon the world had ever known, an atomic bomb that, when unleashed over Hiroshima, Japan, immediately killed from 60 to 140,000. It's interesting, such a broad span. They don't know how many it killed. And injured 100,000 more. 3 days later, the U.S. dropped another bomb, this time on Nagasaki. Again, the immediate aftermath was a nightmare. The decision to use these weapons changed the course of history. And for more than 7 decades, the world community has lived under the threat of nuclear annihilation. People the world over have campaigned vigorously to get rid of these nuclear weapons, but generally to no avail until just recently, on July 7th of this past July 7th, 122 nations stood up to the world superpowers and adopted an agreement for a historic treaty, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. While the nuclear nations are not among the nations who support the treaty, the hope is that this treaty will strengthen the global norm against the use and possession of these weapons, that it will establish a powerful new international legal standard, one that stigmatizes nuclear weapons and compels nations to take steps toward disarmament. The United States, which could have used its power to help to end the peril that nuclear weapons pose to the world, chose instead to boycott the negotiations and worked to persuade approximately 40 other countries, including our neighbor Canada, and most of the NATO states to join the boycott. Nuclear weapons are the only weapon of mass destruction not yet prohibited under international law, despite their imminent danger and their inhumane and indiscriminate nature. There are approximately 15,000 nuclear warheads in the world held by 9 nations: the US, Russia, UK, France, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea. 90% are held by the US and Russia. So they have a lot of power, to put a stop to this. But at this time, all 9 of these countries, the nuclear states, are currently planning to upgrade and modernize their nuclear weapons arsenals. The U.S. alone is planning to spend $1 trillion for redesigning nuclear warheads. This would be over a period of 30 years, I believe, as well as new nuclear bombers, submarines, land-based missiles, weapons labs, and production plants. In addition to the outrageous cost and the fact that the U.S. can already destroy the world many times over, this nuclear modernization plan violates the terms of the 1968 Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which requires that nuclear powers engage in nuclear disarmament. It's not always easy to talk to people who believe in nuclear deterrence or the need for a strong military, but talk we must. And I want to touch briefly on some arguments for nuclear abolition. First, the abolition of nuclear weapons is an urgent humanitarian necessity. There is no effective humanitarian response, no meaningful health response to the use of nuclear weapons. They are unique in their destructive power, in the unspeakable human suffering they cause, and in the threat they pose to the environment, to future generations, and indeed to the survival of humanity. Any use of these weapons should be considered illegal and immoral. The second issue is security, and this is the one that people will most often bring up. In fact, it's interesting to note that most of the countries that did not vote for the treaty said nuclear weapons were essential for their security. Nuclear weapons, in fact, make us less safe. Rather than keeping peace, they breed fear and mistrust among nations. And these weapons are useless in addressing today's real security threats, such as terrorism, climate change, extreme poverty, overpopulation, and disease. And there have been many documented incidents of near use of nuclear weapons as a result of a miscalculation or accident, including times when the decision to launch was seconds from happening. Unless we eliminate nuclear weapons, they will almost certainly be used again, either intentionally or by accident, and the consequences will be catastrophic. If you really like a good scare, I recommend you read Eric Schlosser's book, Command and Control, which talks about, I think he says there's 1,000 incidents where something could have happened, which would have been disastrous, either an accident or a near use of nuclear weapons. Third is the danger to the environment. Nuclear weapons are the only device ever created to have the capacity to destroy all life on Earth. According to studies by Physicians for Social Responsibility, the use of even a fraction of current arsenals would cause catastrophic climate disruption, a devastating agricultural collapse, and a global famine that could kill more than 2 billion people. And as climate change progresses, the danger of nuclear war will increase dramatically as nations experience limited food and limited water resources and try to deal with forced migrations that could dwarf the current refugee crisis. And you know what a serious problem the current refugee crisis is. Fourth is economics. Nuclear weapons programs divert public funds from healthcare, education, infrastructure repair, disaster relief, and other vital human services. The 9 nuclear nations spent tens of billions of dollars each year to maintain and modernize their arsenals. Where will the $1 trillion that the U.S. is planning to spend come from? We know where it'll come from. Right now they're saying, for the $56 billion that the president wants, they're going to take it from Social Security and Medicare. So they're going to be very responsible and make sure they can pay for these things. But they're taking them from the very programs which are most likely to bring about peace. The treaty agreed to on July 7th of 2017, just 1 month ago, prohibits nations from developing, testing, producing, manufacturing, transferring, possessing, stockpiling, using, or threatening to use nuclear weapons under any circumstances. It also makes it illegal to assist, encourage, or induce anyone to engage in any activities prohibited under the treaty. In addition, nations must not allow nuclear weapons to be stationed or deployed on their territory. A nation such as the United States or any other nuclear state, one that possesses nuclear weapons, can join the treaty, but it has to remove all their weapons from operational status immediately. This would be really scary for our government, wouldn't it? And destroy them in accordance with a legally binding, time-bound plan. It would also be required to eliminate its entire nuclear program. A nation such as Germany, that hosts U.S. nuclear weapons on its territory, can join the treaty so long as it agrees to remove them by a specified deadline. The treaty also addresses reparations for victims of nuclear use and testing and for environmental damage caused by such weapons. So it's a great treaty. The treaty will be open for official signing by all members of the UN and others on September 20th of this year, and will take effect 90 days after the 50th nation has ratified, signed, or accepted it. It will be legally binding only on those nations that sign it. Signing the treaty is a relatively simple act. It's performed by the executive branch of a government. Ratifying a treaty generally involves a legislative process. In the U.S., the Senate would be the body that would ratify the treaty. If you want more specific information, you can find a copy of the treaty, a very helpful Q&A, and a lot of other good information on the website of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. ICAN, I-C-A-N. Just Google it and it pops right up there. As citizens of this country, the only country that has used nuclear weapons, and the country that spends more on its nuclear arsenal than all other countries combined, have a special responsibility to speak out to ensure that these weapons are never again used by our government. The Wham campaign to ban nuclear weapons grew out of this conviction. The day the treaty was signed, the U.S. issued a statement that said, "We do not intend to sign, ratify, or ever become a party to it." Same day, came right out there. So where do we start? We got to start at the grassroots, and that's where the Wham campaign starts. Our long-term goals are to stop the trillion-dollar modernization of the U.S. nuclear arsenal, to get the U.S. to take nuclear weapons off hair-trigger alert, that the U.S. ratify the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, and the U.S. President vows no first use of nuclear weapons. Very ambitious goals indeed, and also long-term. Our short-term goals are more doable, and this is where we would like your help. 1 Minnesota U.S. Senator and 3 Minnesota U.S. House members will publicly support the treaty. Our hope lies with Senator Franken and House members Keith Ellison, Tim Walz, and Rick Nolan. We want to send 2,000 postcards to Senator Franken and Klobuchar, which read, what did I do with that card? Well, I don't necessarily have to read it, I guess you can look at it yourself, but basically, it asks them to publicly support the treaty, and in the meantime, to stop the trillion-dollar modernization, to take weapons off hair-trigger alert, and to ratify the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. We have printed 3,000 of these cards apiece for both Franken and for Senator Klobuchar, and we believe that more than 1,200 have already been sent in. And we try to only count those that we know are sent in. I myself send in 600 apiece, so we know a lot. I mean, I've collected them from churches and various places. So we know we have a lot, and I'm sure by October we will have more than 2,000 each. We want to gather, our goal was to gather 5,000 signatures on a petition demanding a ban on nuclear weapons. I know some of you signed it. It was going around the other day when I was here on Wednesday, I believe it was, which will go to the 2 Minnesota senators and 8 members of the House of Representatives. And they will be delivered to each of their offices in October. So we're still working on this. And we have actually, Steve knows better than I do, but I think we have about 5,600 right now.
54 plus.
Yeah, because I knew the 54 was a few days back, and we collected some more. So we've moved our goal to 10,000 by October, so we need some help.
10,000 lakes.
We want to reach out to local churches, encourage them to get signatures on postcards and petitions, which we have done quite a bit of, and to take other creative actions, whatever they think they can do within their communities. We always try them to talk about what they can do, what they think they can do, so that the power comes from them rather than an outside group coming in and telling them what to do. We want to engage 100 new people in actively promoting the campaign, which I think we're getting up there. And we want the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul, who are members of Mayors for Peace, to publicly support the treaty. And by the way, there's no reason why any of you can't go to your city mayor, educate him about the treaty, and say, we want you to speak out publicly about this treaty, and talk about all the money, and you can look this up, all the money our taxpayers in our community pay in order to support this nuclear arsenal. And in closing, I want to say, we're always looking for people willing to get signatures on postcards and petitions, and to visit our local officials. We have a couple dates set up, so if you're interested in visiting either Franklin or Klobuchar, come and see me and I'll talk to you about the dates we're going to see them. We are especially interested in getting more signatures on petitions from outstate Minnesota. This is a copy of the petition. There's 20 people can sign the petition. And if people from outstate would take 1 or 2 of these and get 20 or 40 signatures, that would be really helpful. We have probably 3,000 of the 5,400 are from the metropolitan area. So we need more people from outstate when we go to Nolan and go up to Peterson in his area. We need people from that area of the state. Anyway, you can pick them up later and maybe question after everybody talks. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Are you saying outstate or out city? outstate, like Wisconsin, or out of city?
outstate, in Minnesota, because this is
Okay.
for Minnesota.
Oh,
Now,
in the outer
now I
part of the
have
state.
a copy of our campaign. Am I going over my limit? I have a copy of our campaign. If anyone from like Wisconsin or anyone else say, hey, let me take a look at that and see what you're doing, I do have an overview. So anyway, come and see me later if you're interested in helping. Thank you very much.
That was terrific, and we keep rolling along. We will have time for questions and answers,
This is very specific, though, to what you want us to do. You
or
want
not.
both the cards and so should one person sign this as well as sign a card?
Yes, but we're more in outstate. We really want to get,
Okay,
okay, but yes, we have the cards.
so it's okay to
They're
do both?
great cards. They have a
Yes,
copy
doing
of
both
them.
is
Yes.
good.
Okay.
And you can pick them up and take them